here. And let's get the encoders up and running.
You've now tuned in to the Drawing Board Podcast, a powerful, thought-provoking discussion where we talk about family, relationships, ministry, community, and career. Let's see what exciting guests we have on our show today.
Thank you for tuning in to the Drawing Board Podcast. I am your host, Andre Ebron, the founder and the host of the Drawing Board Podcast, the author of the powerful, thought-provoking book, The Drawing Board, and of course, one of the hosts of the annual The Drawing Board Experience, where guess what we're going to talk about? Family, relationships, ministry, community, and career. I want to give a special shout out tonight to all of our corporate sponsors, Ebron and Associates, which is a consultancy which consults, develops, and supports personal, professional, and organizational transformation with the vision of leading individuals and organizations from effectiveness to greatness. I'd also like to give a shout out to our other corporate sponsor, the Viger Group. The Viger Group has a mission to build lucrative business investments in areas of industry in which they are personally passionate. TVG, better known as the Viger Group, must continue to be synonymous with both innovation and creativity. Their products and services are a living testament to their management team, and therefore they take great pride in their work. Here are 5 domains that you can focus on when you're thinking about the Viger Group. To be creative and innovative, to aim for product excellence, to bolster the image of our brands with passionate determination, to act as entrepreneurs, and to strive to be the best in all they do. We thank them for their sponsorship because it makes the Drawing Board Podcast possible. Tonight, like every single night, I promise you to bring you quality information from quality guests. And I'd like to welcome to the show, let's give him a Drawing Board welcome, Brother Harrison Shelby. Welcome to the show, my brother.
Oh, thanks for having me on. I'm glad to be on tonight and have some fruitful discussion.
Absolutely, man. I'm glad that I have the opportunity to converse with you in this format. We've had an opportunity to exchange here and there when we saw each other in public. Yeah. But this will be, man, we're going to dive into what I believe, man, is the heart of why it is that you do what you do, and how you've been such an effective community organizer and advocate over the last years. Now, I know I'm going to introduce to some and present to others, but let me talk about who Brother Shelby is. Brother Shelby is a community organizer, mentor, and servant leader whose aim in life is to build power in his neighborhood. Harrison is currently serving as the youth engagement coordinator at the Detroit Phoenix Center, a nonprofit organization that works with youth that are at risk or currently experiencing homelessness. So we want to give a shout out to Courtney Smith, the founder and executive director of the Phoenix Center. She's scheduled to be one of the guests coming up soon, my brother.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. Yes, sir. And so you have also served as a community liaison at the University of Michigan Detroit Center, helping the university build relationships with community-based organizations in Detroit. And prior to your current role, you served as an engagement coordinator at Brilliant Detroit, another nonprofit, on building kid success neighborhoods. Let's break it down, Brother Shelby. And it sounds like you are the quintessential liaison. You connect people in the community to the resources necessary to live a qualitative life.
Yeah, I've been blessed and fortunate to have opportunities to work with organizations that are in the trenches, doing work in the community, connecting people to resources, and building that collaborative and not working in silos amongst organizations. So that's really I've been blessed to be able to do that at multiple, places.
Oh, man, that's amazing. So at the Drawing Board, man, we always want to get to the why of a thing. So please explain to me your journey. Like, why do you have such a passion to, as you say, build power in your communities? What does that mean?
Well, to me, building power it's a paradigm shift. You have to be able to look at it from multiple angles and also understand that a lot of the things that we need in our community is already there. A lot of untapped potential. And sometimes it also takes us to realize, working with organizations to figure out the problems. And a lot of the solutions can come from within the community. And just getting people to realize the power that we have, I guess. That makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah, it makes sense. Could you give me some examples, man? When you say that essentially the power is already resident in the community, untapped potential, and then you said that it's about shifting mindsets and paradigms to look at knowing like that the solution is already within the community. What are some examples of like power that is already resident in our community?
Well, we talk. Well, we're in a huge election year, and they always talk about, does my vote count? Does it matter? And the answer to that is yes. And if we think about it, collectively, we hold the power to hold decision makers accountable. We have the expertise when it comes to the issues that affect our community. We know firsthand what we want to see. Sometimes we're not able to. I guess we haven't tapped into to really making our voice heard. And I think also different organizations that come in and think that they have the solution, and the solution is, with your next door neighbor, with it's we have it out there. It's sometimes hard to tap into, but we see block clubs and neighborhood associations and things like that that have been doing the work for years. And as a young community organizer, I've gained so much wisdom learning from the elders within the community and how to take the baton and finish on this work that's happening.
That's good, man. Now, why is this work important to you personally?
I've watched, just as a little boy, I've always been interested in volunteering, and my parents instilled in me two paramount principles. Just being the ability to give back, and learning, education. So being in the community, I've always been out at the different meetings when I was younger, and taking this knowledge and sharing the resources. So it's just been something that at the heart of who I am. And growing up in the church and things like that, it was important for me to help others. It just was instilled in me since I was young.
Okay, so it was just a naturally developed potential within you to serve others.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good, man. So I heard you say growing up in the church. Go ahead, man. I'll let you shout your church out. Where do you worship?
Apostolic Renovations Ministries International, Apostle Austin G. Mitchell Jr. Used to be Villa de la Rosa back in the day.
Okay.
Yeah, I've been associated with them for over 20 years.
Oh man, that's great. So that's nearly most of your life.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what capacity do you serve there?
I don't serve in an official capacity. But I have done some work, trained as a deacon, and also helped with youth Bible study, taught classes before, and just looking to do. And also, me and my mom had worked with our nonprofit arm of the church, and we were doing some things with feeding people in the community. Because I had started a food pantry at Henry Ford College,
right,
when I was in school, and then we took that to the community and started an initiative called Feed 365, focusing on feeding the people in our community, and not just like going to areas like Cass Corridor or certain places, because anybody could be hungry, anybody could be facing the challenge, and just broaden that whole thing, providing more resources.
That's good, man. I have a question for you. As a liaison, how do we get these nonprofit organizations, for-profit companies, corporations, and the church, which also operates clearly as a nonprofit? How do we get all of them to coalesce and build community? Because I think that's important. That if we get the faith-based arm, which provides hope, if we get the nonprofit organization, which provides direct resource, and if we get the corporations to come in and provide some type of infrastructure to build, how do we get them all speaking the same language and for the common cause of building up the individuals that reside in that community? How do we do that?
It's simple, removing the ego that's there, and then it sounds simpler than what it is, but really removing the competition that, because some of the times we're fighting for the same grant dollars and different pots of money. But if we focus our goals and our collective interests, I think that's a start. Getting everybody that at the table is going to take cross sector, is going to take the faith-based community, is going to take the nonprofit, is going to take the foundations, is going to take government. Right now, I'm seeing a great example. I'm serving on the task force on youth homelessness for the city.
Okay.
And we have a number of different people at the table and different systems, all focused on one issue. And we're looking to put together a plan to go after a grant with HUD. And so I'm just seeing, actually today we were doing, before this call, we were doing system mapping and really just figuring out everything that's already there and not trying to recreate the wheel, and building off of what's already out there. So I'm seeing right now I'm seeing a lot of cross-system collaboration in many different spaces. I've been fortunate to see, so yeah.
Do you think that the pandemic of COVID-19 is going to change the way that these organizations interact?
Definitely. It's definitely causing us to have a plan in place, and it's also changing how just how we operate within the space. Do we always need to have these in-person meetings? Is these Zoom meetings effective? Just it's a lot to consider. And even at the Detroit Phoenix Center, we already a crisis response organization for the youth that we serve, but it's changing how we do our programming. And so we run a drop-in center, but we're not able to operate that during this time. So how do we provide resources to the youth that we serve? Making sure that we are still having putting up content online and things like that. So it's really challenging organizations to think about how they operate and how they're going to do this going forward.
Right. Yeah, I saw. I follow you all on Facebook, and I saw how the Detroit Phoenix Center was partnering with Enjoy Detroit and some other organizations to get food out, and you guys were really out there on the front lines. Really hand to hand, face to face. I love grassroots work. I love it just because it takes that it's that eye level view. It's difficult to look a person in the eye and not see the real material, not the real material need. It's not a high rise view of the circumstance and situation. It's boot to boot, boot to concrete, face to face. I'm looking at you and what you really need, and I'm going to do my best to assist and serve. Now, here's a question I have for you, man. How do we, and use particularly as a liaison, how do we move a person from crisis to stability, with providing their direct need, but how do we move them along that process of recovery from crisis to wholeness?
In my experience, just based off of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, when you're working with someone, meeting their felt needs first, food, clothing, things like that, then you'll be able to engage in, that's even how I approach the political process. Even when I'm going out talking to people, I'm not asking, are you registered to vote? I want to know, how can I help you? And then we move up the ladder to getting you self-sufficient and things like that, because it's going to all correlate. Because if a person isn't thinking about where their next meal is coming from, or if they have a safe place to stay, then they can focus on and see how it's also connected to policy and other things like that. And just being there and being transparent and making sure that they can be vulnerable with you. So,
absolutely. So, looking at, go ahead.
Oh, I was even saying, some of the projects that I'm working actually with a group of young people who've had lived experience in homelessness and overcame traumatic obstacles in their life, and now they're focused on creating community projects and working on advocacy. We actually right before the shutdown, we were in Lansing advocating with the lobbyists, and this is the first time they've ever been to Lansing or been a part of, like, advocating. A group of young people that were homeless, now are in college, have jobs, and are self-sufficient, are advocating for others. And they also created a project where they're creating resource corners in the schools so they can have food and hygiene products and other information. So seeing the resiliency of young people that have been through some things, including myself, I've been through some things, and using that as a call to action to get others engaged and to create change and have impact in the community. I think that's very important. It's a large part of my work that I work with the youth in our Youth Action Board.
Oh, that's awesome. So you turn your pain point into a purpose point.
Yes.
That's
yes,
excellent.
Because so God can get the glory and and testimony out of the things that you've been through. How that's gonna other people can see your life and get a small glimpse of hope to be able to overcome their obstacle.
Yeah, true. So, man, what are some of those things, man, that God has gotten the glory out of your life that makes you impactful in the work that you've done, particularly with you?
Well, some of the challenges that I had to overcome, while I was in school, I actually got sick randomly back in 2016. And this is the time that I was meeting with administration, and they had an idea for a way to help youth on campus. And at the same time, I had been in prayer about the youth that were around campus that didn't have anything to eat. And I was like, this is crazy. And I started to bring a little bit of extra food with me. And I was talking to one of my classmates, and I was like, man, we need to do something. And I was about to write up a plan, and the student activities coordinator, actually, sorry about that, had reached out to me and said the college wanted to do something around hunger. And so we met, and then I got on board, helped them take from ideal on paper to the Hawk's Nest at Henry Ford College. And then that January after break, I got sick, ill. Didn't know what was wrong with me. Ended up finding I had diabetes. Almost went into a diabetic coma. Had a flesh-eating bacteria infection going on in my body. And the doctor said if I didn't go to the hospital, I would have had 1 hour left to live. And ended up having 4 surgeries. And then before that, back it up just a little bit, not going to take it, but
no, you're
my
good.
mom, she was working, she's an educator, and she was working at Southwest Solutions at the time.
Okay.
And I had told her, the Holy Spirit revealed to me it was time for her to walk away from that job. And in the natural, she's like, man, how are we going to survive? I need this. And I just told her, release it. So a couple weeks later, she did. So that was back in December, November-ish. And this January now, going into 2016, and I get sick. So we don't have medical insurance to cover my bills. And I'm I'm also just started this new endeavor at the campus. We're supposed to be hiring and grand opening, and I'm in a hospital trying to write a grant. You know, not even worried because my faith was, I'm getting out of this. I'm you know, my faith never wavered, and I just remember the Holy Spirit telling me that this is gonna hurt. It's gonna challenge you to are you gonna trust me throughout this whole experience? And I remember I happened to adjust once I got out of soon as I got out of the hospital, I went back to school and worked that next week, that Monday. Running the organization, school. I was working another job at Michigan Roundtable. I decided to run for precinct delegate. It was just a lot going on, but and still trying to heal physically, and you know, really getting it. And then out of that, over $100,000 in hospital bills, they decided to cover it. My mom's old job, over insurance.
Yes, sir.
So believing that God is my provider, He's gonna heal my body, that's not gonna stop me from being out here and serving the people. You know, I did a lot of great work that year, and I just remember my faith never wavering. You know, and for him to, you know, for nobody to even understand or everything that was going on at the time, and just to see people were, you know, winning awards and out here in the community doing different things. But yeah, I've been through some things where I can just, but God, and He's awesome.
Yes, He is, man. To Him be the glory forever and ever. Amen.
Yes.
You know, we call those drawing board moments. So if I had to fully define what the drawing board is all about, man, it's literally from Revelations chapter 12, verse 11, for we overcome what? By the blood of the Lamb and by the word of our testimony.
Testimony.
Yes, sir. So my goal, man, is to share as many testimonies as possible so that it does two things. A, it empowers the person, because the same anointing that was there, that was resident with you as you overcame sickness, as you overcame what looked like it was going to be insurmountable debt, as God delivered you and you empowered you to continue to do the work, that it releases that anointing so that people can receive of it. The second thing, what it does, go ahead, brother.
I was just saying, even in uncomfortable experiences, it helps us stretch, reach, and grow into our greatest potential. Because in our difficult moments, if you can trust God and lean on Him, then He'll lead you through. And even in this pandemic, I haven't been without, you know, and I'm just thankful. I didn't want to cut you up, but I just, you know.
No, that's good. That's good. And the second thing is, it removes everyone's excuse for not producing. When you hear about somebody who was, had they not gotten to the hospital within the hour, that they only had that amount of time to live, right? But in the hospital writing grants, right? Somebody who's able-bodied, well-minded, if you're not facing that, you don't have an excuse for not producing. When we talk about somebody who's on the front line and serving through while he's still healing, ran for precinct delegate, received that opportunity, still working to meet the needs of others on campus at the Hawk's Nest, and still having things going. Like, some people don't have that much on their plate, and you're still able to produce. And we know it's by the grace of God, but what it does, it compels other people to serve and actualize their own potential. Yeah.
It really does. I mean, for me, I think about just the things that are going on in the community, and some of those things just keep me up at night. But I think beyond just having a relationship with God, so I'm praying for people, I'm praying for our community, but what are the action steps? You know, and actually going out and being a church, you know, going after God's passion, and those, you know, people that are hurting, that need, and then in the actual natural, they need help, they need resources, they need somebody that they can look at and get a little hope. Even on social media, sharing certain messages, you don't know how many inboxes I get about just, man, that post touched me or this or that. And it didn't even start off as a way I wanted to be a motivator or anything. It started off as in my long prayer time and the things and some of the things that came out of it, the lessons of journaling. And I was like, okay, maybe let me post this and it might help somebody else. So just thinking about how you can help other people has really been it for me. And then I've been blessed, man.
Yeah. When I think, I always give each one of my guests, I give them a challenge, right? So I'm sitting here, man, and here's my challenge to you. And generally, it's either programmatic, where it's some element of a program that they develop, or it's some writing prompt that gives breath to their testimony, right? So here's the book that I want to give you. I don't know if you thought about writing a book, but here's the book that I want to give you. And the title of this book is entitled Unwavering.
Okay.
All right. And when I think about your work, it reminds me of scripture. It says, don't see that I'm hungry and not feed me. Don't see that I'm naked and not clothe me, right? In James, where it talks about you see somebody hungry and you say, Lord, I pray for you, peace be as you go. But you're talking about what are the action steps to providing feet to your faith, right? And so that is my challenge to you, man. That's that story you just told me about your health. Of course, there are so many details that due to time you probably didn't share, but like really, really breaking down the experience of 2016 for your family, because it takes faith. I would ask your mother, like, why did you have such confidence in him while he's going through sickness telling you leave your job? I would ask her those things. And that's something that you can unpack in that story of unwavering.
Yeah. Being connected spiritually with your parents, they are able to understand the things that you go through and you're connected on a deeper level. But even that, sometimes we're not ready to move when God, but he's going to ultimately push you, to get you to where you need to be. And sometimes it's having people that know you spiritually drop that word to get you to move. But even in the time when not in truly trusting God's timing, she was able to help help me during that time when I was trying to recover, and she was able to focus on other business ideas and initiatives that she wouldn't have had if she was working full time. So you never know what's gonna happen. We just have to trust God's timing.
Absolutely, man. So with us being in this pandemic, man, and essentially I was online, I'm an educator. And so this is one of those moments where we're having to trust God's timing in a very real, practical way, where it is not just affecting one person's life, it is affecting the entire world. And so what is some of the practical points that you can share from your experience about teaching someone how to trust God's time?
It's all about relationship.
All right.
This is a time where it's isolation, but this is a time where you can be able to connect with God in a way that you will never have. So it's an opportunity. I was listening to Brother Wyatt talk about this being an opportunity. Actually, I grew up this church that we went to together, the Via de la Rosa, actually. But this is the time where you need to spend in your word, in prayer. We just were not promised time. And even in the natural, if it's some things that you've been putting off, this is the time you have nothing but time. If it's writing that book, if it's starting that business, if it's launching that podcast, universities are offering free classes. Different organizations need volunteers. I mean, there's so much that you can be doing. And if you look at it, once we're on the other side of this and you haven't done anything, you've wasted time.
Right.
I know it's a lot, but if you focus in on something as far as maybe doing a new hobby, trying a new recipe, spending more time and quality time with your family, on the opposite, you'll come, this is a time to create a new norm. So everybody's like, it's not going back to normal. So it's time for you to focus in on something. that's my whole take on it. Using this as an opportunity and not, letting fear and stress come in and doubt and anxiety that, and you're paused this whole time. This is opportunity.
No, I fully agree. And one dimension of that I like to add is, if you think about not just what are you doing during this time, but the question is, who are you becoming during this time, right?
Yeah.
And so the who will always take care of the what. And
it's also about who you're serving, who you're helping. We may be on a lockdown, but that we're not locked out of our responsibilities
that's good,
to our
man.
family, to our community, and to our jobs or whatever. However, we help are out presenting in the world and helping.
Right. Years ago, man, we did this. It was an initiative that we did through my church, and it was called "It's Your Serve." It was a youth initiative where it was designed to, really activate youth servant leadership and giving them opportunities to serve within the community. So I have a question for you, man. A lot of parents have this question: how do I mobilize my teens and tweens to take action as far as in the realm of service? How do we get teens and tweens activated in the house to prepare to get them service-minded?
Well, I think it's being able to connect service to what they're passionate about, their skills, their hobbies, and things like that. If you're able to connect with them on that level and get them to see that they have a responsibility or obligation to contribute something to the world. And many times they see what's going on and they have the solutions to a lot of the problems that are going on. But we never engage them in a way that makes them feel like what they have to offer is valuable. And it's a process. It takes time. I remember when I first started showing up to meetings and community meetings and things like that, my parents were like, why are you going to a meeting for, somebody that has a single mother, and I have my dad in my life. Why am I going to this? Or why am I going to this community meeting? But I think it was just learning the knowledge and then being around some of the elders in the community. I'm often the youngest person in the room, but it took a lot of trust. Like, who is this young guy? And then they were finally bringing me under their wing for true mentorship, or bringing me in for different opportunities and things like that. But I think really just we have this mindset, or these ideas about, especially millennials or the generation after us. And there's sometimes a disconnect. And I think we can, bridging that is really just conversation and, being with one another.
All right. I agree with you, man. I don't know what's going on. It seems.
Yeah, I have a little technical difficulties.
Yeah, no, it's all right. We can still hear each other, so we'll continue on.
Yeah.
If you had to, and I know I'm putting you on the spot, if you had to give me a bulleted list, and you may have this in your arsenal already, but if you had to give me a bulleted list of youth engagement strategies starting 1 to 10, what would you say? Fire away. Number 1.
Listening.
Listening. Oh, that's good. Okay, listening. Yeah. Number 2.
Yeah. Also, being able to be relatable, tell your story, how, connecting with the youth that in a way that you're relevant, if that makes sense.
Yeah, so listening, let's write this down. Listening, relevance. Okay, number 3.
I would probably say getting them to think critically about whatever it is, providing them with the knowledge, the skills to, for them to be their best selves.
Okay, so is it think critically or provide resource? Which one?
Well, getting them to think critically first.
Okay, and then 4.
Defining. and then providing the necessary resources for whatever it is that you're, engaging them with, whether that's a goal that they might have or they want to get into something, yeah.
Okay, we're almost 5.
I'm no expert in the youth engagement.
No, it's okay. I know. Listen. I'm pulling on you. Just because I feel you have and I'm putting you on the spot. But you are in the trenches doing the work with the youth on a regular basis, particularly youth that have gone through some adverse situations. And the reality of it is that most of the youth that we engage today within inside of Metro Detroit have experienced something adverse that may skew the way that they engage the older generations. So myself, I have the privilege of being close to Generation X, but I am a millennial. And then I'm actually raising Generation Z. So I have, and then because I honor my elders, I've sat under so many baby boomers, right? So I'm like this amalgamation of, I'm listening to you, and it sounds like you're pretty much of the same. So you have this cross-generational experience or this intergenerational experience. And I think that it's important that we hear from somebody such as yourself, who is a hybrid of all of these different experiences that's cross-generational. So number 5, what do you think? Youth engagement strategy. We have listening, we have relevance, we have causing them to think critically, we have providing the resource for engagement. Number 5.
Authenticity. It really should have been the first one up there. They know when you're not being authentic with them. I remember a couple times where some guys I was working with, quote unquote, tried to pull my card to make sure I was really in this work for the right reasons before they can reveal certain things to me that was personal. So, yeah.
Right. It reminds me of our brother Marlo Stoudemire, right? He always will quote that Jay-Z quote, and I may not get it 100% correct, but he said, "I put my hand on my heart to let you know that I feel you. Real recognize real, and you looking familiar," right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So authenticity or being real. What's another one? We're on number 6.
Number 6. I would probably say opening doors for youth. Yeah. Yeah. If you don't have somebody that you're mentoring or engaging with and that type of thing, you need to get somebody and opening different doors for them, when you see that they're ready for different things, and exposure.
There it goes. Exposure. Opening doors. Okay. Number 7.
You trying me today.
Yeah. Hey, listen, we're going to pull these 10 points out. We are going to get these 10 points because I think that it will revolutionize the way that people engage youth. Number 1, you already said that we need to listen to them. And so many people like you and I right now, we could probably call up 8 other people that are in our generation or older, and we can develop a whole programmatic plan on how we're going to engage youth, but not have one youth at the table, right? And so we'll think we have this awesome plan, and it could work for our benefit, but the youth will gain very little from it because it's not reflective of their voice. So, man, you're doing a great job. Number 7.
You should operate from this place where this work is done with, for, and by the youth. So, like you just said, they need to be part of the decision making. They need to be part of the whole process, and trusting them with responsibility. Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna give you a 2 for there. I'll give you 7 and 8 for that. So on number 7, you said include them in the entire process, right?
Yes.
And then number 8, I'm going to give you trust them with the responsibility. All right, 9. Yes. What's number 9?
9. challenge them to challenge them to bring their peers into whatever it is that, to engage their peers too, since we're moving up the rank. Yeah.
No, that's good. Challenge them to engage their peers. So there comes a
Yeah.
point in your program where it's time for expansion, right? And
Mm-hmm.
a fisherman knows that in order to catch whoever it is or to engage the demographic or population that you're looking for, you have to present somebody that is reflective of who you're trying to bring into the fold. And so if you've equipped them, if you've challenged them to think critically, if you've provided the resource, if you've been authentic, if you've exposed them to the resource, if you've engaged them throughout the process, if you've trusted them responsibility, now you can send them out. Because essentially what you're talking about here is a level of discipleship, right? Essentially, that's what you're talking about. So now, number 10, to finish us off, a 10-point plan for youth engagement. What's number 10?
The elders are for counsel and the youth are for war.
Okay, break
Really
that down for me.
Understanding that paradigm shift. Like, the youth are ready and willing to get involved, and sometimes the elders are saying, "Oh, we tried this or we done this," but if we go through all these steps, then we're ready to really have impact, because I believe that, if it's people that are pouring into these young people and we're pouring into the elders and giving them hope, because a lot of times they say, "Oh, this is a throwaway generation," or whatever the case may be. I think if we go through these proper steps, that's really at essence a model for success in youth engagement and cross-generational work. And I've seen it done in my life. Actually, as a student, I had an idea when I was at high school under William Washington. I know he's your frat brother.
Oh, yes, sir. Brother Washington. Wait a minute.
Yeah.
Let's pause for A5 one time. Oh, okay. Now go ahead, bro.
But really, I had an idea about some of the things that were going on in my school, and so I wrote a list of workshops and different things. I went and presented presentations to the school administration, and they supported me through the whole process, how to get the funding, setting things up. And in high school, in my junior and senior year, I created 4 successful student workshops that was led by me, that I wrote. Staff supported me. My former superintendent, Dr. Davita Colbert, personally gave me money for the lunch each time we had these functions. So she invested in me, and it really changed the school culture and the dynamic. And that was really what I was intended to help out with ideas. So I've seen it done, and that's probably what's led me to want to continue to help other youth develop these ideas they have to change their communities.
That's excellent, man. If you had to credit, and listen, I'm going to type this up and send this to you if you have not, if you weren't writing it down. But if you walk through here, man, you have just given, every organization the keys to actually engaging the youth. And something that you said that I thought was essential that I didn't just want to gloss over, and it's scriptural, because the scripture says you call on the old because he's wise, the young because he's strong, right? And so you were talking about how the young people provide, in essence, hope for their predecessors, and that the older generations provide wisdom and faith to their successors, right? So how do we, and here's my challenge for you. I guess here's a second challenge, is how do we marry the two when it appears, and this may be a false narrative, but it appears that both generations feel like they're both not listening, that the elders feel like the youth are not listening, and that the youth feels like the elders are not listening. How do we cause that cross-generational experience to become an intergenerational experience? How and where do we create that? Because the wisdom of the elders We cannot afford for their wisdom to die with them. How do we create that experience, my brother?
Whew, that's a deep one. Definitely, in my experience, it's been shooting your shot sometimes. If it's somebody that I wanna get to know, I'm sure, and I've seen them, know about their work. I, reach out and try to figure out, have a conversation and spend time with them. But, sometimes it's hard for people to have that level of engagement. But I think, man, this is a deep one. It's taking me a minute to think really about it, because there's no easy solution to that. I think we're in a prime situation for some of this to be exchanged. We are seeing, in the middle of crisis, how can we respond? What part can I do? What part can you do in making, the world a better place sometimes? And sometimes the elders are just really looking for somebody that's willing, because a lot of them are getting tired on this battlefield. And some youth are ready to step up, but they feel like they're going to get shot down. Telling people they're not, people telling them they're not ready or they don't understand this or that.
Listen, man, I remember I've been in Detroit now 16 years. And I remember, I went to a community engagement meeting after a deacon, and I'll keep the church unnamed, but a deacon had been killed in senseless violence. And I went to this community organization meeting, and the leader of the organizational meeting, man, powerful brother who really had the community at heart, man, and listen, welcomed all generations, old to young. And really, I just wanted to be a part of the movement of what was happening. And I was willing to yield my strength to those who had wisdom on how we were going to navigate this. So subcommittees were assigned, and an elder was assigned over each subcommittee, right? And this elder stood up. We hadn't even had a chance to meet as a subcommittee. This was just the assignments that were given. And this elder stood up, who was occupying a political role at that time within Metro Detroit, and had a little bit of clout. And I'll never forget, man, being willing to serve under this leader. And he stood up and he said to the guy who was leading the charge, he said, "How dare you couple me with these neophytes?" And I said, whoa. And so as a youth, in essentially, the younger in the situation, of course, man, I could have been offended. I could have, divorced myself from even being in a part of the movement. But here's what I had to realize as a younger person, is that one person's or that one elder's opinion was not greater than what the community needed. And so you had to develop some really thick skin, because, I was there ready, willing, and able. And so here's kind of my sounding the alarm for the elders, is that in a moment, you can put a distaste inside of this next generation's mouth by your words of how you view and perceive them. Some of the greatest lessons that I've learned, and I'm going to be honest with you, has been from my children. Being a father, I have learned so much from my kids. But the reason I can learn from them is that because I already perceive that there's an inherent value in what they have to say.
Yeah, your heart's posture. Are you open to receiving,
Yes, sir.
Receiving that.
Because if wisdom truly comes from God, Brother Shelby, then we cannot make it a generational thing.
Yes. And I believe too that, in my experience, my gift has made room for me. It has opened doors. I've never been, I have never had like a traditional opportunity. Things were coming because of the work, not getting caught up in the titles or the awards or whatever. And I never really interviewed really for the opportunities that I've had. They came organically or, by one of my connections or things like that. And so it's led me to be in this purpose-driven work and keeping the right heart posture is open to learning and also in times of correction, being able to be open to that. That's sometimes difficult, but
talk about that for a second.
Mm-hmm.
Times of correction.
Yeah, this time I don't get things right, and being able to decipher how to respond and having adults having people older than you in your life being able to step in from a place of love and offer you some guidance or correction, and you being able to be accountable for that. Accountability is huge. Sometimes you have to decipher where it's coming from, because sometimes people offer you some advice, but it's not what's best for you. So you have to discern that. But yeah, I've had some struggles. I thought certain situations with certain people where I would consider a mentor, it really wasn't that type of relationship, or understanding that they were wanted me to go down a certain path, and that's not necessarily, the best path for me. So it's a mix. I've had, good relationships and some, not so good with others in the community that were older than me.
Yes, sir. What I found is that, man, most times people are operating with good intentions about when they have a certain perspective of your potential, but their
Mm-hmm.
perspective of your potential is not always equivalent with God's calling on your life. And
Yes.
I think that having the grace to ebb and flow between the two, of knowing how to receive people's compliment of what they feel directionally you should be doing because of the potential you have, but then also responding properly to the call of God on your life to serve in whatever capacity that He has assigned you. Here's something I want to ask you, man. I really want to further develop this. We only have believe it or not, about 7 minutes left, but I just want to get your response on this. Is that you talked about responding to correction. And I think that is something that is expected, but I don't think that is something that is taught, because I see so many people, particularly in my role as a Dean of Culture and Climate. What I endeavor to do is to teach young people how to properly respond when being corrected. And then I also am tasked with the responsibility of teaching those who are leading how to properly correct someone that produces what's called in the Bible a peaceable fruit of righteousness. So, man, what are some ways to properly respond to correction?
That is something I'm still working on, but I think how you just talked about it in the schools and how it shows up, I had to learn some things, and I didn't always respond to authority in the proper way, and also things I was bullied because of my weight in school, and so sometimes at first I was like, I'm talk to their mothers and things like that and try to find an equitable way out of this. But then I started fighting and resulted in being kicked out of school and things like that. And then I transformed it into those workshops and helping other people through that. So it was a process. It took a lot of learning on my part, and thinking about how I probably self-sabotage, and now thinking about even self-sabotaging opportunities because the way I responded to correction or from an adult trying to get me to understand, what was going on in that moment. But sometimes it's just having your own realization of it. And that's a process. It ain't going to just happen overnight.
Yeah, no, it doesn't happen overnight. I would love for you to put some more thought into that. And of course, I'm going to extend an invitation to you. We do at Dawson Elementary Middle School, which is a school under the Detroit Public Schools Community District on the west side on Glendale, right down the street from Detroit Roller Wheels. Like that shameless plug, boop, put it in there. All right. I want to invite you out, man. We do a career spotlight every Friday. So in the fall, when we return to school, I would love for you to come out and to share your story, about overcoming bullying, to share your story about developing workshops and engaging the community in meaningful ways that provides material, meets the material needs of those who are going through some shortages or lack in their area of life. I want you to also come out, man, and talk about overcoming sickness, following the proper examples, learning how to respond to authority. Like those are some of those substantive things that youth need. And here's what I believe, man, in the last 4 minutes as we close out, is that life will sometimes place a demand upon people who in areas of which they have not been taught. And our responsibility is to equip the youth with as much qualitative teaching as possible so that when life places a demand upon them, they can respond from an informed place. So as we close out, Brother Shelby, man, where can they reach you at? What are your social media handles? Where can they find you?
I'm on Facebook as Harrison Shelby. That's on my personal page. I can be found professionally, Detroit Phoenix Center, for my email, hshelby@detroitphoenixcenter.org. If there's people that are out there that need different resources, our website is detroitphoenixcenter.org as well. And our number, 313-482-0916.
Awesome, Brother Shelby, man. I thank you for being my guest. Thank you for sharing. We've been able to come up with a 10-point youth engagement plan here. And I'll share that out to you, man. I do want to give a special thanks again to my partners, the Viger Group, who has the mission of building lucrative business investments in areas of industry for which they are passionate. TVG must continue to be synonymous with both innovation and creativity, and their products and services are a living testament of their management team, and therefore they take great pride in their work. The vision is materialized in these 5 priorities, fundamentally shared among all of their stakeholders. Number 1, they must be creative and innovative. 2, aim for product excellence. 3, bolster the image of our brands with passionate determination. Number 4, act as entrepreneurs. And number 5, strive to be the best in all they do. We also would like to say thank you to our corporate sponsor, Ebron and Associates, and a consultancy that consults, develops, and supports personal, professional, and organizational transformation. They endeavor to accomplish their vision of leading individuals and organizations from effectiveness to greatness. Without their support, this podcast would not be possible. And again, Brother Shelby, thank you for being on our show, man, and continue the great work. God bless you in all you do. And as I always say, your future is not behind you. It is not before you. It is within you. And I'm Andre Ebron, and this is the Drawing Board Podcast. Brother Shelby, God bless.
Thank you. God bless. Thank you, brother.
Yes, sir.